world of AI, what is your pet peeve, maybe misconception or that type of thing in regard to AI?
Yeah, so I think there's a real issue that people think that AI can solve everything for them. This silver bullet. And when we last spoke, Emma, I said, potential clients ring me up and say, "Can I have an AI, please?" And that's clearly the wrong question to ask. They need to be thinking, what are my challenges? What are my objectives? And is AI an appropriate solution for that? So it's kind of, let's turn the conversation around. Let's talk about how AI can help you meet those challenges and objectives rather than just doing AI for AI's sake.
So I'm going to come to you with your pet peeve in the AI world as well.
Yeah, I had to really think carefully about this one. I initially wanted to say, this misconception of the big shiny robot taking all of our jobs, but we hear about that all the time. So after giving it a bit more deeper thought, I wanted to really say passivity. We can't be passive in relation to AI. It isn't just someone else's problem, and it isn't just somebody else's opportunity. So I think there are opportunities for everyone in every job function, in every industry all over the world, if we really deeply think about how AI can help us do our job better, differently, and help us with our company. So that's the positive bit. The other aspect of that passivity is the regulation, the code of conduct. The world is moving fast, and the legal teams, the regulators don't always catch up and not always ahead of us, and we all have to play our part internationally in doing the right thing. And so that being more proactive and active rather than passive is really where I would like to see us all act.
When I look at this industry, one of the things that I think, because it's a buzzword and because we're also excited about AI and all of the potential, we immediately start to think of, the movie I, Robot from when I was a child, or houses that are going to be completely autonomous and all of these really extreme use cases. But there are tons of opportunities for businesses to start leveraging this technology today and start making an impact and improving their operations. So thank you for sharing some of that with us. A couple of months ago, you wrote an article that was on LinkedIn and your blog that was focused on how do we start to lean into AI a little bit more in our economic standpoint today. And you had some really great use cases. And going back to that book that you mentioned, I'm sure there are all sorts of ideas in that noggin. So can you get us started by talking about where you believe the biggest opportunities for companies are to start leveraging AI and some of those use cases?
Yeah, definitely, Emma. And I think this is a really good point because AI is accessible to even the very small organizations. And unfortunately, the media tends to fill the pages with the huge brands and usually business to consumer. So what I really wanted to say is AI obviously is transforming certain industries, whether that's finance or retail and others as well, like manufacturing. But it's also reshaping loads of different job functions, sales, marketing, customer experience. And so in my book, it's not obviously not all my words. I've created a case study, a selection of case studies from all around the world of businesses of all shapes and sizes. So you have, for example, companies where the sales department is using different machine learning and AI tools, and it's helping them uncover new leads. It's helping them think about how do they follow up with customers and with their contacts. It could be the marketing team where they're using tools like Phrasee or Conversica, and they're taking away the guesswork from marketing, and they are, for example, able to find the right kind of personas and personalize their response to those people. So CX, sales, and marketing coming together, and the tool, the AI, the software is looking at previous data. It's predicting likely behavior based on a very granular approach to it. So it might say, for example, use this headline in your email and you're going to get a much better open rate. And so really what we're moving forward with AI is AI in education, AI in marketing, AI in sales. You are getting big data insights that are allowing you to deliver much more value to that customer.
When we take a look at use cases and specifically case studies, I found one case study with Parkinson's UK that was very timely in regard to kind of the response to the pandemic, but also blended a number of different AI use cases together. So can you start by sharing a little bit about that case study and then some of the different technologies that are being leveraged there today?
The impact of lockdown on all charities, to be honest, is that donations dried up overnight. So they were no longer interested in their medium-term AI strategy. They were worried about, how are we going to pay people tomorrow? It's kind of that kind of emergency going on. So rather than focus on the AI strategy at the time, I kind of pivoted what I was doing to say, right, how can AI help them immediately? What's the things we can do today that's going to help them tomorrow? So we did a couple of things, and we had to, rather than build AI, through coding, etc., because that takes a little bit of time. We brought a couple of vendors in, just for speed, really, and we negotiated some COVID pricing, as I call it, just to get some good deal and get some things in quickly. But the first one was to look at their donors' propensity to donate. So can we predict which of their donors or their existing donors were more likely to donate? So that what that means is that you can then, when you're targeting your community, your donors, one, you can actually send the messages, and particularly leaflets, because a lot of their community is elderly. So they react more to something coming through the post box than an email. So there's a cost associated with that. So can we send less leaflets out but get more funds back in return? So that means targeting those people that have a higher propensity to donate. So by feeding in all the historical information, built a model through the vendor, and then the campaign that went out actually came back with a very high rate of return. So we managed to actually reduce the cost of the campaign, but increase the funding at the same time.
Karen, I'm coming to you, and I'm going to make you distill one of your articles that you shared earlier this week that had 17 tips for organizations looking to develop their data strategy. I want your number one tip. So this is like a full distilling of that message to talk through. What is that number one tip?
Kind of, if I do that, everyone will read. I'll not read the article then. But the number one tip of mine is just hire great data analysts, first of all, and then give them the tools and the support that they need to do the job. Too often, we hire a data analyst, we don't give them any support, we don't give them the tooling, we don't give them political cover, we don't explain the business or whatever else, and then it becomes their problem and we all decide that data analytics doesn't work. It's not the case. If organizations have data, then they can certainly make better decisions if someone runs the analytical models and methods on them. But in some instances, don't expect that data analyst to come up with a business case all by themselves. They need that support from the CFO and from the business. Don't expect them to do it from day one either, because sometimes you'll discover patterns in the data you haven't seen. It takes time to drive value, but just get a great data scientist, data analyst, whatever you want to call them, give them the support they need, give them the tools, help them build a business case so that you build a bit of experience and confidence using data to make better decisions in whatever AI or data analytical models you want, and then move from business case to business case to business case, just as you grow what I describe as data analytic muscle over time. So I was saying anything, Emma, it would be as simple as that. Great people make great businesses, not the tools or the computers or anything else. So hire someone great and give them all the support they need to be great.
And I just put in something in the comments as well and tagged John Perry. We actually had a discussion. He's the director of data at Syracuse University, and we had a conversation about making sure that you also position people into the right portion of your organization. So having people that are really great at distilling and communicating data, that might not be the same person as the person that's a really great data scientist. So making sure that you're not looking for that one specific unicorn that can do everything, and having realistic expectations of how to build out that human capital strategy associated with data. Because to your point, Karen, the tools are the tools. They're going to do what they're determined to do, but it's the people that are working with those tools that are going to kind of make the magic happen for your organization. If you had an executive in front of you and you were able to give them a piece of advice or help them understand one idea as it pertains to AI and data for them to drive their strategy moving forward, what would that look like?
Oh, yeah, really good. As you know, I have got a scorecard for success, so I'm not cheating. I just want to reference that because this is actually very multifaceted. And so I would say they do need to realize that this coming up with an AI strategy has an impact on multiple different parts of the organization. And so I'm thinking here about the mindset, the culture, the interdependence, the budget. So, you can have a look at that scorecard for success. And so I would be saying to that CEO, to that leader, you do need to realize there's no quick fix here. The benefits can be phenomenal, but you do need to look at the whole piece. But that's me cheating and saying, here's that big picture. The one bit I really would say to them, though, compliance, regulation is so important. And so they do need to make sure that whatever they do, it must be lawful, it must be fair, it must be transparent. And that is law already because that's part of GDPR Articles 13 and 14. So the explainability, the consent and so on, that bit of it is absolutely fundamental. So they must make sure that they're operating within the guidelines. But bigger picture, have a look at my scorecard, think about the whole piece of it.
So Andrew, I'm going to ask the same thing to you as well, getting that distilled message to that modern executive on AI and data.
I think in the words of Public Enemy, don't believe the hype. AI, they need to think of AI as a tool. It's a tool that's going to help them have deep insights about their customers, about their people, about their products, their services, etc. It's going to help them make better decisions at the end of the day. But it's just a tool. At the end of the day, it's just very clever maths, and people need to think about that, not get carried away. And this goes back to what I said at the beginning, about not overestimating what AI can do. Or it's not going to be like iRobot, etc. There's some very useful, very brilliant things that AI can do, but think of it like that and don't think of it as kind of this science fiction thing. I think that's the key thing. Otherwise expectations get away from you. People get disappointed, etc. But if you keep the expectations at a good level, then that's definitely the road to success. If I can just kind of squeeze one other thing in as well, kind of one of my personal mantras is always think big and act small. So understand where you want to take AI. Think about your ambitions. Do you want to just improve some processes, make them more efficient, or do you want to fundamentally transform your business through AI, or somewhere in between? But understand that end goal, and then how to get that is those small steps. Proof of value, etc. Get people on board, have the right to play, and keep going until you reach those goals.